Yeah.
Just look straight ahead, or should I?
We're going to make sure he gets this.
No one knows who that reporter is.
He's rolling?
Maybe I should have somebody standing there.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. It says
A little lower.
I just choice I made.
Okay, what you said. Gotta get you a dashiki.
Dashiki? You said dashiki.
I own the company that makes them. So.
Really? I'm a drummer, so I used to wear it when I played.
Oh,
Nice. Look really badass. I saw a guy named Elvin Jones used to be the drummer for Coltrane. Or dashiki.
I get you one of these.
Yeah.
No.
Silence! Silence, that's a nice word. But it's more than a word, it's an absolute right. It's a right that we all have. Anybody who's watched on television, they know that when you get arrested for a crime, you're told that you have the absolute right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It's a right guaranteed by our founding fathers in the Constitution, Fifth Amendment codified in the Miranda case. But going on here in Pasco County, we have something which is similar to the bizarro world of Miranda, in which the exact opposite occurs here in Pasco County. Under the law, you have an absolute right to remain silent if you are a criminal and you are arrested. But for my client, Roxx, he was arrested for merely remaining silent, for exercising his fundamental constitutional right that the Constitution gives us, that we have lived under for hundreds of years in this great country of ours. Silence. In this bizarro world, even if you are not under arrest, you are presumed to be a criminal if you remain silent. The exact opposite of what Miranda stands for. They should have read him the bizarro version of Miranda, which says, although you are not suspected of any crime, although you haven't been accused of any crime, although you're not under any criminal investigation, you have an obligation to speak, and that your silence can and will be used against you. That's what happened to Roxx. He was arrested, although he was committing no crime and was not under investigation for any crime. He was merely a passenger in a vehicle during a traffic stop for an equipment violation, which is merely just an infraction, not a crime. And yet he was arrested for exercising his fundamental right to remain silent. Here in Pasco County, a citizen was arrested for exercising a fundamental right. How does that make you feel? How outraged would a community feel if other rights became illegal overnight in Pasco County? What if a person was arrested for worshiping the God of their choice, and that was the sole basis for the arrest? What if the press was arrested for asking a question at a press conference, and that became a crime? Is that any different than being silent? What if a lawful gun owner for merely legally owning a gun was arrested and charged with a crime for exercising their rights under the Second Amendment? This community would be outraged. This community would be outraged. Now, this is a sign. This is the peace sign. But this sign came out in the 1960s, the peace sign. Back in the 1940s, it was a sign for victory. And although we want peace in this community, we also want victory. And we will have victory in this particular case. And this is also a sign for the Roman numeral 5. And that's what this should be symbolic of in this community. That we do have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. And it is not a crime to exercise your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So we want peace, we want victory, and we want respect for the Fifth Amendment. Now, law enforcement has already dropped the ball in this case because they made this illegal arrest. However, anybody who watches the show Law and Order knows that that's only half the equation. Part one is the police. Part two is the prosecution. So far, my client has not been charged with any crime. The police arrested him, but now it's in the hands of Bernie McCabe, our elected state attorney, to decide whether or not to file charges or not. So it's in your hand, Mr. McCabe. hopefully you will do the right and just and lawful thing in this particular case. My name's Steve Bartlett, and I am honored to represent a man who's not afraid to stand up not only for his own rights, but when one man fights back and exercises his constitutional rights, he's not only doing it for himself, he's doing it for everyone. So let's all give a round of applause and appreciation for someone who acted heroically on not only his own self, but for all of ourselves in the name of defending our fundamental rights in the Constitution, Mr. Andre Roxx.
Well, Mr. Bartlett can talk. I did prepare some statements today, but I'm going to go off the cuff because there's some things I want to say that I didn't put in those statements. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today and supporting me. As I said last week, this is not about me. Mr. Bartlett is here to handle me. This is about the rights of every individual and the rights being taken away by law enforcement officers who respect their egos more than they respect the law. Since I've been dealing with this situation, I've gotten an opportunity to speak to so many people here in Pasco County who have such similar stories, who are not going to have a viral video or a rally for them or anything like that. And I've been put in a position where we can begin to help these people. Because what ends up happening is a person is arrested and a law enforcement officer swears that they committed a crime. And in many cases, that person doesn't have the finances or the legal resources or the people to call to make sure that they can get justice. And they end up in a jail cell. They end up with fines. They end up with legal fees that they cannot afford. And they end up losing their jobs, their homes, and they run around afraid of the very people who are here to serve and protect us, people that are here to defend us. We have to get law enforcement to a point where they decide that they are going to serve and protect us, not run around trying to show off for live PD.
Exactly.
Right now, I'm starting a fund so that we can gain finances for people who deal with the same issues so that they can get legal assistance, so that we can bring national media light to their cases to put pressure on the Pasco County sheriffs so that they'll stop this activity. You can donate to this fund. The link is up on my Facebook page, or you can send a PayPal to justiceinpasco@gmail.com. I'll be coming out with more information later. And again, I want to say we're not here to protest for Andre Roxx or for justice for Andre Roxx. Mr. Bartlett's going to take care of that. This is justice for the people of Pasco County and justice for the people of the United States of America so that we cannot live in fear of our police officers. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
Yes.
Is my arms wide enough? Yep. My name is Bill Duma. A lot of you know me. I'm the president of Citizens Against Discrimination and Social Justice, based here in Pasco. We've been in existence for slightly over a year. This organization came about not because of something I did, but because of what the community did. The community got together, held a meeting, and said, we need to do something about what's going on in Pasco. There's discriminatory acts, job discrimination, housing discrimination, etc. Cassie took out to confront those issues. But lo and behold, the biggest issue Cassie confronted happens to be the issue the Pasco County Sheriff's Department. Number of times we've met with the highest echelons of that department. We met with the sheriff. but they don't want to hear anything. They are an entity unto themselves. Their motto, we fight as one. Not we are here to protect and to serve, but we fight as one. They take care of themselves and they look after themselves and they look out after the bad deputies. No end. Mr. Roxx is fortunate. From my understanding, one of the deputies recognized Mr. Roxx. But had he not, we may not be here right now. We may be at a hospital trying to find out what happened to Mr. Roxx. Because that's the way it goes. In fact, looking at the video, I saw Mr. Roxx get out of the vehicle. And even though the deputies had realized who he was, they just couldn't control themselves. When he turned around to be handcuffed, they still had to slam him against the vehicle to let him know, we're the boss here. Now what we've done, Cass has done, we're going before the county commissioners, and we have a program that we're fighting to do, and that's to establish a citizens oversight board in Pasco. Because as I said, the sheriff department is an entity unto itself. But let me tell you something. We're dealing with another case right now where I had to sit in front of a mother and see her crying because a sheriff deputy unjustly shot her son 3 times. Unwarranted. Cleared. Within 3 days, cleared. There are many who are sitting in prisons right now because they didn't have benefit of counsel. They had no one to assist them. I've talked to many attorneys in Pasco, and they would tell me on what they call the QT about some of the things that are going on in Pasco, but they would not step forward because they're fearful. Let me give you an example. Mentally ill people better be very careful when they call for the assistance of a deputy for their loved ones, because that person may end up in jail, seriously hurt, or dead. Yes, dead, dead, dead. For those who have access to a computer, I want you just to Google killings by police in Pasco. It seems to me we have 500,000 people in Pasco, but there are more killings by Pasco deputies in Pasco than there are by police officers in New York City. That's a fact. That's a fact. I know someone's going to come after me and say, hey, that's not the correct. But check your Google map. Check correctly. Google it. See how many individuals have been killed. Steve Manson just killed by a deputy. No, nobody probably knows about it because it's not really publicized because it's happening so often.
Remember his name.
Remember his name, Steve Manson. And you will be seeing us in the street for Steve Manson. It was a hurting feeling to see his mother sit there and cry, and I couldn't do anything but feel sorry for her and say to her, give it to the Lord. You just have to give it to the Lord. But they're only one of quite a few. Some are not killed. Some are beaten seriously. I have deputy statements where I literally brag about how they beat people. I grabbed her by the wrist and I gave her a wrist lock and bent it backwards. A disabled, mentally ill female. One of them, I put her in a leg lock and I took her to the ground. A disabled female. This is what we have in Pasco, folks. It's up to you, me, and the citizens of Pasco to step forward, be an oversight of the police department. I want you folks to remember our contact number. Remember our contact number. If you need help, contact us. If you can support us, support what's going on, what we're doing in Pasco, contact us. We have to now put a stop to it. Sheriff Nako has already said that he would not support a police oversight agency. I say to you, Sheriff Nako, it's not up to you, it's up to the citizens. And I thank you.
Yes.
At this time, I'll take any questions that anybody may have, any issues or concerns. If anyone has any questions, now's the time. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. I just want everybody out there to understand that the citizens of any municipality, any state, any city, any country should not be afraid of the people who are here to protect them. And we have to stop the fear by stopping the people who are trading off of that fear. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Roxx. Yes.
So there you go, guys. There's Andre Roxx outside of the West Pasco Extortion Center, because Pasco has 2 extortion centers. This is the same place I did jury duty. I'm actually working on my jury duty video. I'm so lazy, man, when it comes to editing video, but this is Andre, man. He's actually doing far more than I would even know to do. I wouldn't even know how to do all this stuff he's doing. The cadc.org, I like that last guy that was talking. I like him a lot. The idea of a citizen overview board is the best idea I've heard in a long, long time. And what a shocker that the sheriff doesn't want oversight by the actual public, because the majority of their first policy is to get you to surrender your Fourth Amendment. That's their first policy. When making contact, get the people you make contact with to surrender their Fourth Amendment. That's exactly what he got arrested for, because he didn't want to. He wanted to be secure in his person's house's papers and effects. His license and his ID is part of his papers, and unless he's suspected of a crime, he does not have to surrender his papers. He doesn't have to ID. It's the Fourth Amendment. It's the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, as his lawyer, Steve Bartlett, was saying right there. So there you go. There's a follow-up, Andre Roxx. If this guy gets convicted, this will be absolutely, positively unbelievable if this guy gets convicted of this, especially when making all this hoopla. If he actually gets convicted, you're going to know for sure that this is the most corrupt system in police department. I had to run in with the cops there, and you'll see that one of the cops inside this actual extortion center said that I wasn't allowed to record in there, and I wasn't allowed because of an administrative order, and he forced me to shut my camera off, and then said, I'm going to do what the judge says regardless of the Constitution. So anyway, there's the follow-up, Andre Roxx. The bird can hear me talking through the door in the other room and is going absolutely ape doo-doo. All right. Bye. I love you. Subscribe for free. Click the thumbs up. Click the bell. Click the join button. Go to John's Coin Rings on Etsy. Peace and tranquility. Bye.